You are listening to How to Get Over Your Ex, episode number 97, Lessons Learned from My Exes. Welcome to How to Get Over Your Ex, a podcast on getting over your ex without it just taking time. I'm your host, Breakup Coach Dorothy. Let's turn your pain into power and your heartbreak into happy. Hello, my Bravehearts. I am obsessed with each of you so damn much right now. Oops, my phone is on loud. That never happens. Now, I feel so aligned with each of you. I just want to say thank you. You guys are amazing humans who are just fucking badasses who stand up every day, right? Even though you're low, you get up, you do the impossible, and you keep putting one foot in front of another. So kudos to you. Today is for you. I'm so excited for you to be here with me today. Now, fun fact, today's my birthday. Not right here, like while I'm recording this episode, but the day you guys are listening to it, it is my birthday, May 3rd. It also kind of depends on when you're listening to this episode. Now, super fun. I'm 31, aka it is my second 30th birthday. And I am having a Coachella themed birthday party and we're calling it Dorchella. My friends are the best. It is going to be epic and it's happening on Saturday, May 1st. And oh my goodness, I cannot wait to get dressed up. I cannot wait to dance. I am so excited. Now, today I have a really fun episode that I wanted to share with you guys. I wanted to share a little bit more about my personal life and just more about me as a human being a little bit, give you a little behind the scenes of my life while still telling and teaching you guys stuff about heartbreak, okay? We're not going to lose that part of it today. I am still going to teach you so much about heartbreak. But if you are new to the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast, welcome. I love you already. But please know that this kind of episode is not really an accurate representation of the content here. So you may not want to start with this episode, but if you do, that's totally fine. Just recognize that the content in here is going to be a little bit different than it normally is. And my episodes tend to be rather short in comparison to how long this might be. And I actually don't know how long this is going to be, but we'll see. Okay, this is so fun. So here's how this is going to go. I'm going to tell you all about my past dating life. We're going to talk about my past boyfriends, all of the past boyfriends that I've had, and just kind of indulge in everything I've learned from each relationship and each person. So this is going to be real talk here, my Bravehearts. I have gone ahead and changed all of their names, so their privacy is protected. The only one I didn't change is my most recent ex because number one, if you've been following me or if you go back far enough on my Instagram, you can totally just see. And he was my photographer, so you see him tagged. And secondly, I asked him, if he wanted me to change his name and he was like, no. So Matthew will be Matthew. P.S. You guys, I used a random name generator, which was like a very weird kind of hilarious experience. You just click generate and it generates all these male names with like addresses and fake social security number. It was like kind of sketch. I was like, I can't believe this is on the internet. But I used a random name generator to generate these names. They're totally random and they are not the actual names of my exes. Now, lastly, I have a secret surprise that I want to talk to you about at the very end of this. And I hope you stick around for the whole thing to hear about it because I am just so giddy. I'm so excited about it. Okay, let's do this. So the first person I'm going to call out is my very first boyfriend number one, Charles. So I started dating him at 14. So I think we dated for like a year and a half or so. So from 14 to like 15-ish. Now, this guy was an amazing human. He actually recently passed away in a car accident, and he's the only one that really, not the only one, but when he passed away in his car accident recently, this was back in January, it really inspired me to do an episode about this because, to be honest, when he passed away, I just thought about all of the things that I learned from him and all of the things that I learned about my first love and all of that. So thank you, Charles, which again is not his real name, but he was a very colorful human. And honestly, I'm surprised actually that my dad was so chill about me being in love with him because he was so dangerous. Not him as a person, but we would like ride four-wheelers and dirt bikes. And the number of times I almost died while hanging out with him was more than I can count on two hands. There were so many moments where we were riding four-wheelers and it tipped over, or I would run and jump off on the back of like this riding lawnmower and like it would tip over. It was just craziness. But because he was my first love, I really learned a tremendous amount of information from this person. The biggest thing I can take away from him is this idea of living life exactly as you want to. He was unapologetically and authentically himself from day one until he passed away. More than I've ever seen any human live. He would get in trouble at school, but it was just him being him. He left our hometown to live the life he wanted to, and just, again, unapologetically. And I just love how he was himself, regardless of what other people thought or said about him. So I'm obsessed with this lesson because when you really learn how to be your most authentic self, regardless of what other people think, it's a very freeing feeling. And at the end of the day, other people are always going to judge us. People are judging me all of the time. So would you rather try to change yourself and show up in a certain way to please others and they're going to judge you? Or would you just rather show up as yourself unapologetically and have people judge you, right? They're going to do it either way. So learning how to be unapologetically yourself, so important. And I loved him for that. Okay, so the second ex I'm going to talk about is Sean. So I dated Sean like when I was 16, 17-ish, and he was super athletic and was very popular in school. This was the first time I really just experienced jealousy and insecurity and worry in my relationships. He, for sure, I can't say for certain, but I want to say 98% sure he cheated on me, but I was just so madly in love with him. This was also my very first like traumatic heartbreak that had me like thinking about someone all day, all night, after the relationship. And it was a miserable experience. And I would cry and cry and cry. And my poor mom did her best, but nothing she said ever made it better. So now what I've learned and what I loved about this boyfriend was that if you wanted to change something in your life, just do it. Because he was so athletic, he was always around other sports people, and my body is not naturally athletic. You might have never seen my face. Actually, if you're listening to the podcast, you have seen my face, but not necessarily my body. And I'm not like the most athletic person. And I remember having a lot of thoughts and feelings about my body and truly kind of felt like there was nothing I could do about it. It was just, this is my body and this is how it is and there's nothing I can do. And he would constantly say, Dorothy, just do something about it. If you want to lose weight or if you want to go get better at running, do it. Do something about it. And he wasn't meaning it in a way where you need to lose weight. He thought I was fine exactly the way I was. And truthfully, I was. I was so perfect exactly the way that I was. However, at the time, right, I would get kind of mad when he would say that because he made it sound so simple and so easy, but it really was. I really realized that I could do something about my specific situations. Once that relationship ended, I remember really taking that to heart and then going out and doing things to change the stuff in my life that I didn't like. Who knew, right? And so anytime something feels impossible to me, I really think about him and how if I don't like something in my life, I can actually change something about it. Always, no matter what. So example would be, if you don't like being stuck in traffic, drive at a different time. Find something you love to listen to while you're in traffic. Carpool so you can work while you're in traffic. And of course, all of you know by now, we can always change our thinking. But if you can change a circumstance in your life to make thoughts easier and you like your reasons, do it. But the change will always start with you changing your thinking about the situation. And so I love him for that. Love how he kind of taught me that no circumstance in my life is permanent. Okay, so then we have George. Fucking love George. Now, I met George when I was young, probably like 16, while I was still in that relationship with, I forgot his fake name, Sean. And George and I actually never really even dated, but I'm putting him in here because he really changed my life so much in the way that I love. We stayed in contact for a long time. So he was really weaved in and out of my life a lot, and we went years not talking. And then after the end of my traumatic breakup that all of you know about, I actually met up with him in person, and he surprised me with like a beautiful vacation. And oh my God, I felt like the Bachelorette. It was beautiful and amazing and epic. And I thought after that point that we would date, like we would actually be in a relationship after that. And we didn't. And it really surprised me. And in that moment when we had this conversation about not dating, it made me realize that he is the most selfless human I've ever met. I remember him saying, Dorothy, we've been kind of in love our whole lives together. We love each other dearly, but we just don't fit together. We live different worlds. And he was so right. We did. We live different lives, and I thought we would figure it out and make it work and all of that. But I can see where he was coming from, and I know he loves me, and I will always love him dearly, and we check in on each other and say happy birthday, but we will never be romantic partners. Now, the biggest lesson I learned from him and that experience is selflessness. You can love something and you can leave. You can love something and decide it's not for you and still be there fully as yourself and totally madly in love. Like, it was probably the most easeful, I don't know if that's a real word, but easeful completion of a relationship or ending of a relationship I've ever had with someone. It wasn't jarring at all, and I know that it all came from so much love. Now, Donald, this was like a different kind of relationship. So at this point I was 17 or 18, maybe even 19, but I was finishing up high school by this point. Probably not 19 yet. I was finishing up high school. And this guy to me was like someone I had never been with before. He was super tight with his family, and I loved that about him, like a very good family dynamic. And I remember I learned a lot about who I was in this relationship and how strong I could be when it came to other people's opinions about how I felt and how I experienced life. And I really had to learn how to stand up for myself in this relationship. But here's the thing. He was so fun and he was so different from what I was used to dating. I was just so infatuated with his background, and the way he thought about the world was a way that I had never experienced before. The kinds of conversations we had were just new kinds of conversations. I never conversed with other humans in this way up until this point, especially a romantic partner. So it was so different from what I was used to and very vulnerable in a lot of ways. And like I said, we came from different backgrounds, different life experiences, yes, even at 17 or 18. So I truly think that the biggest lesson I learned in this ex was really how to speak my truth. I feel like I always remembered him being very truthful about what he was thinking and what he was experiencing and how he viewed the world, even in difficult situations, even in uncomfortable conversations. And like I said, I had to build strength in myself to stand up for what I believed in and for what I saw for myself. And all of that really has to do with speaking my truth when he would speak his truth. And honestly, I came from a very strong people-pleasing background. I did and said anything I needed to stay out of trouble with my dad. So learning the lesson of speaking my truth, even when it's a disagreement with someone else, especially someone who's close to you, that was very needed and important in my life. And one thing I want to say about that for all of you Bravehearts out there is, here's the thing. When it's hard to speak your truth, it's oftentimes the most important moment for you to speak your truth. So remember that if you're super hesitant to speaking your truth in some specific situation, know that it's probably what is most needed from you in that moment, and it will set you free. Okay, so then we have Michael. Oh, Michael. Michael was the funniest man I've ever dated, like the funniest ever. I dated him the summer I was leaving high school and headed into college. So he was also with me for the first bit of college. So we did long distance, literally from the top of Minnesota to Florida. So that was fascinating. And that did not last very long. So Michael came from a rather rough background, but he was so damn good at loving the present moment and making a bad moment good. He found the best in every situation. He was so good at it, and it was so natural to him. And the lesson he taught me was really learning to treasure the present moment, because you'll never know when it will go away. Like, you're never going to be the version of yourself you are today. Again, it's just impossible. You will always be evolving. So stop and smell the roses a bit and enjoy that version of yourself. Even, right, when I was in the thick of heartbreak in 2016, I look back at that girl and I'm like so impressed by her and so proud of her for enjoying herself and living in that skin for a little bit while we were in that moment. So think about that, though, for all of you Bravehearts. What if we did that every day, right? You grow more and you grow faster when you're accepting and loving where you're at right here, right now. And so I learned that from Michael. Love it and appreciate it. All right. So my Bravehearts, Brian. Brian is the guy I talk about all the time here on the podcast. So we dated from my age of 19 to 26. So we covered undergrad, grad school, and my first real adult job. Now, if you're an avid listener, you know all about him and the story that goes along with it. So I've really learned a lot, obviously, from that relationship and from him, right? We've learned compassion. We've learned forgiveness, strength in myself to overcome the worst thing that will ever happen to me. I will literally forever know that I have my own fucking back because of that relationship and because of him. But I want to my whole podcast talks about him and all the lessons I've learned and all that. So I want to spend more time here talking about him and what I learned from him versus the breakup and that experience. So something I loved about Brian was how he took care of the people he loved. Like, he was really able to take care of things. It was the first time I had felt safe in a relationship. And obviously I felt safe because of my thoughts. I was having thoughts like, I'm taken care of, he's going to take care of things. It wasn't necessarily because of who he was, but I didn't have thought work at the time. So I had no idea it was my thoughts creating my feeling of safety. I totally thought it was him. So what I learned from him around this safety and being able to care for people you love was really my desire to be more of an adult. And what I mean by an adult is just meaning that my desire to start, learning to take care of others and learning to care for more, how do I put this? To care more about the collective versus just myself, and making sure that I'm okay and that I have a good time. And in that experience, I realized during that time that if I didn't take care of myself first, I couldn't take care of others. And when I tried to do that, it never really worked out, and was always coming from this place of wanting something in return. Like, I would take care of someone, hoping that in return someone else would take care of me. And he would care for his family in a way where he had no expectation and really no manual for his family of getting anything in return. He never really wanted anything in return. He would so freely and lovingly take care of his loved ones and his family and not expect anything from any of them. And I thought that that was so beautiful, and it was a huge lesson that I needed to learn, not only of not having expectations of my family, but like loving them exactly as they are. And that was such a beautiful lesson that he taught me from that experience. Okay, we're almost done, you guys. I have lots of ex-boyfriends, huh? Okay, so Matthew. So Matthew's my favorite ex. He is amazing. Now, up until Matthew, I didn't have thought work, which is so crazy to look at as I went through evaluating all of this and going through this with you guys on the podcast. Now, I found thought work while I was already in a relationship with Matthew, and he was patient AF. Like, I have so many lessons that I learned from Matthew. It's ridiculous. So, very grateful for this man. He told me that I could use his name. He was like, you can just refer me out to anyone who's listening who wants a boyfriend. So I thought he's just very witty. He's very funny and very playful. So first lesson I learned from him is patience. So I was really struggling hardcore with jealousy and insecurity when I met him. And just to give you a little bit of background, I actually met him through modeling. So I was going through a phase where I was modeling, right? You guys, I had gotten in the best shape of my life because of my breakup. I started modeling, I started traveling, and so I traveled to go do a photo shoot with him in Boston. And he took pictures of me, and it was like an instant connection. And the beginning of our relationship was like out of a movie. It was crazy amazing. It was travel. It was like passion. It was all things. And he was a photographer, so he still had to take pictures of other women. And that was really hard for me. I had a really, difficult time with that. And that's really when I started and found thought work and really started that journey of everything that I teach all of you now. And he was just so, so patient with me in that journey. And it allowed myself to have patience with myself, which also kind of brings me to this second lesson that I learned from him around unconditional love. So through all of the crazy shit that I did at the beginning of a relationship when I was still totally not over my ex, he loved me when I showed up like a crazy person. He loved me when I didn't show up like a crazy person. And he never shut down. He stayed open for it all and would show up for it all, which can be very hard for a lot of people. And I had never really experienced that kind of unconditional openness and unconditional love. And then lastly, there is something about him having such a well-balanced life. He can work and he can play. And I could just easily work all day, every day. And he really taught me the importance of a well-balanced life, right? Loving my personal life, loving my work life. And that took me a really long time. And I'm really just now kind of blossoming into that. But it is something that I kind of learned from him and saw him do, which made me realize it was possible. So, and also I figure that also probably has to go back with patience too, because he was patient with how much I worked, right? Patience with yourself and patience with others, I feel like is the number one thing. Oh, and the last thing I do want to say about Matthew is he also introduced me to good sex, like actual good sex. What it was like to have, passion infused with sex. And that was something that I had never experienced in my prior relationships. And I think it's important to note here and to call out to all of you Bravehearts, because it's really crazy to me to think about how I was so wrapped up in my ex of 7 years because I didn't even know what good sex was. Like, poor me, didn't even know that I hadn't even had good sex yet. And I was so wrapped up in this other person. Like, that's crazy for me to think about. So I really want you to think about all the doors that open up after the end of a relationship, after a relationship that completes itself. Look at all that has come so far from the end, like the ending of all of the relationships you've had so far. And I feel like every single time it just gets better and better and better. And I've had 7 endings so far in my life of really big, important, monumental relationships. And all of them were beautiful in their own way, and so many lessons and so much beautiful opportunities, await the rest of my life from the endings of these relationships. And that's what I want for all of you to have. Now, you guys, this is so exciting. So before I do the summary of what we've kind of learned here and talk to you guys about next steps, I also want to share something with all of you that is super special to me and that I'm really excited to share with all of you. So I am actually seeing someone new, And I asked if I could use his name, and he was totally fine with it. So I am seeing a new man, and his name is Jake. And obviously, I have no idea what this relationship will result in. But he's truly the cherry on top of my already amazing epic Sunday. And I am just so excited to start sharing this journey and the lessons that I've already learned from this amazing man and our relationship together and all of the thought work that we've been using within it and how it applies to heartbreak. And it is the most mature relationship I've ever been in yet. Like I said, it just keeps getting better. Now, probably because I also realize that it feels and it seems very mature to me, probably because I have thought work and I'm an expert in it. And the conversations we have are amazing. And yes, he is learning that thoughts create feelings. That is happening. And the first thing I can say is, or I guess the first thing that I can say and that I want to say about Jake is there is nothing that has ever compared to how he takes care of me. We talk about this, when I was talking about Brian, but Jake is another level. I feel so seen and so taken care of by him. He does all of these things without me even asking. And I think that this has to go hand in hand with everything that I've been learning about masculine and feminine energy. And he is very much in his masculine, which allows me to relax into my feminine, which was very difficult for me to do because oftentimes in my career, I come off using the masculine energy a lot more. And then at home, I have a hard time turning that down because I feel like everything needs to be taken care of by me. And so because he's so in his masculine, it really allows me to soften into my feminine. And it has been such a beautiful, wonderful experience. And I'm so excited about it. But he, like I said, he does things without me even asking, which I don't, it's kind of funny that I say it like that because when I say it out loud, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal, but it is a huge deal for me. He's like, helped me set up new stuff in my place, and he built me a bed frame. Like, I just can't get over this whole bed frame thing, you guys. I saw this bed frame online, fell in love with it, like showed him, and then he went out and built it for me. On his days off from work, he was like, let me build you this bed frame. I almost cried. I'm just so obsessed. So obsessed. And honestly, Bravehearts, I love falling in love. I really don't fear heartbreak anymore because I know on the other side of it, I get to fall in love again. And to me, that's the funnest part of finding a new partner. And it's one of the funnest parts about my life and about life in general is falling in love. I love falling in love. It feels so good. And I'm excited for all of you to do the same thing and really start utilizing these tools in your next relationship because it will change everything for you. I actually have multiple people in the Get Over Your Ex program who are in new relationships, learning the skill sets and doing the work to ensure that they show up in the next relationship in a totally new way. And I love that for them because it's a completely different kind of relationship. And I'm so proud of them for taking that step. And I really want all of you guys to do that. I hope you choose to do that same work around this because it is ridiculously rewarding and honestly so fun to learn and to do this work together. Okay, so that was kind of my special surprise that I wanted to share with all of you because I love you so much. I feel like you guys are my besties and I want to talk more about all of this with you. And so to do that, I need you guys to know what I'm up to. Okay. So lessons learned by my past exes, right? Number 1, live unapologetically as yourself. Say, do, and be who you want to be. Number 2, if you don't like something in your life, do something about it. Change it. It's within your power. Number 3, selflessness. You can love something and still choose to leave. Number 4, speak your truth, especially when it's hard. Number 5, treasure the present moment because you never know when it won't be as it is currently. Number 6, take care of yourself before you take care of others so you can serve expecting nothing in return, not needing anything in return. And number 7, patience for yourself and for others. And you know me, Bravehearts, How do you do this for yourself? What are the next steps? The first thing I want you to do is write down every ex you've ever had. It can be a situationship. It can be a real relationship. It can be whatever you define as a relationship. Number 2, think about what you loved about that person. Number 3, ask yourself, what did I learn about myself from seeing that quality in that person? And then number 4, make a bulleted list at the end so you can see it in a very simplified way like I did here at the end. All right, my Bravehearts, I love you so much. I'm so glad I got to spend my birthday with you, and I hope you have an amazing week, and I will talk to you next time. If you're loving the How to Get Over Your Ex podcast and you want to learn how to get over your ex in 3 months or less to build a life better than the one you thought you had with your ex, I would like to personally invite you to my next group course where we take everything you've learned here on the podcast and apply it to your life. Come check it out at www.lifecoachdorothy.com.